Hey there, stargazers! I'm so excited to take you on a fascinating journey through time today. We're going to explore the winter solstice, that magical moment when we experience the shortest day and longest night of the year. It's been captivating humans for millennia, and we're about to uncover why. So grab a cozy blanket and let's dive into this celestial adventure together. Okay, so let's start way back in time, like really way back. Ancient civilizations were absolutely obsessed with the sky, and they noticed something pretty cool. Every year there was this one day when the sun seemed to stand still in the sky. That's actually what solstice means, sun standing still. Now imagine you're an ancient farmer or hunter. Knowing when the days would start getting longer again was super important for survival. So these clever ancestors of ours started paying really close attention to this event. They built monuments, created rituals, and even based entire belief systems around it. Pretty amazing, right? Now let's jet over to ancient Egypt. These guys were absolute pros when it came to astronomy. You know the Great Pyramid of Giza? Well, it wasn't just a fancy tomb. It was also a massive astronomical instrument. The ancient Egyptians aligned it so precisely that during the winter solstice, the sun would set exactly between two pyramids when viewed from the Sphinx. But that's not all. The Grand Gallery inside Khufu's pyramid points right at the North Star. It's like they built a massive arrow pointing at the sky. This alignment was super important for their religious beliefs and their understanding of the afterlife. So, the next time you see a picture of the pyramids, remember, you're looking at one of the world's oldest astronomical observatories. Alright, let's hop over to India now. In Ayurvedic tradition, the winter solstice is a pretty big deal. They call it Uttarayana, and it marks the beginning of the sun's northward journey. Now, this isn't just about astronomy. It's deeply connected to health and spirituality. According to Ayurveda, this is when our bodies start to shake off the sluggishness of winter. It's like nature's new year, a time for renewal and rejuvenation. They believed, and many still do, that this is the perfect time for starting new habits, cleansing the body, and focusing on spiritual growth. It's fascinating how they linked the movements of the cosmos to the rhythms of our bodies, isn't it? Now, let's swing back west to Greece and the Judaic traditions. The ancient Greeks, being the philosophy lovers they were, had some pretty interesting thoughts about the winter solstice. Plato and his buddies saw it as a time when the physical and spiritual worlds were closest. They'd have these wild all-night parties called chronia to celebrate. In Judaic tradition, the winter solstice doesn't have a specific holiday, but it does coincide with Hanukkah, the festival of lights. While Hanukkah itself isn't about the solstice, isn't it interesting how so many cultures have light-themed celebrations around this time? It's like we're all instinctively drawn to bringing light into the darkest time of the year. Okay, this is where things get really cool. All around the world, our ancestors built these massive monuments aligned with the winter solstice. It's like they were creating giant calendars in stone. Let's start with the big one, Stonehenge. On the winter solstice, the sun sets perfectly between two of the sarsen stones. How amazing is that? But Stonehenge isn't alone. In Ireland, there's Newgrange, where the rising sun on the winter solstice lights up a hidden chamber. Over in the Americas, the Cahokia Woodhenge does something similar. And way out on Easter Island, Ahu Tongariki aligns with the solstice sunrise. It's mind-blowing to think about the knowledge and effort that went into creating these structures thousands of years ago. Now let's cozy up with some European traditions. In many parts of Europe, the winter solstice was seen as a super dramatic time, the symbolic death and rebirth of the sun. This idea of rebirth led to some pretty awesome celebrations. The Yule festival, for example, was all about welcoming back the sun. They'd burn a massive Yule log, feast like there was no tomorrow, and decorate with evergreens. Sound familiar? Yep, a lot of our modern Christmas traditions have roots in these ancient solstice celebrations. It's like we're carrying on a tradition that's thousands of years old every time we put up a Christmas tree. Let's jet over to Asia now, where they have some seriously cool solstice traditions. In East Asia, there's the Dongzhi festival. It's all about balance and harmony, yin and yang. Families get together and eat these cute little dumplings called tangwan. They're round and come in light and dark colors, symbolizing the balance of the seasons. Now, hop over to Iran, and you've got Shab Yalda. This is a beautiful celebration of the triumph of light over darkness. Families stay up all night, eating pomegranates and watermelons, red fruits to symbolize the coming dawn, reading poetry, and telling stories. It's like they're keeping the light alive through the longest night of the year. How poetic is that? The Inca had this incredible celebration called Inti Raymi, the Festival of the Sun. Picture this, the Inca emperor, dressed in golden robes, leading a procession to greet the rising sun. Meanwhile, in what's now Chile and Argentina, the Mapuche people celebrate Huitrapantu. They stay up all night, bathing in rivers at dawn to purify themselves for the coming year. It's a beautiful way of connecting with nature and marking a fresh start, don't you think? In Slavic countries, they celebrate Kolyada. People would go from house to house singing carols, kind of like modern Christmas caroling. Over in Latvia, they've got Zima Svetki. They'd light bonfires, drag a Yule log around their houses, and wear masks to scare away evil spirits. And get this, they'd also swing on swings. They believe this would encourage the sun to swing higher in the sky. Isn't that a fun way to welcome longer days? So, how do we celebrate the winter solstice today? Well, in many ways, we're carrying on these ancient traditions, even if we don't always realize it. Take the modern Druid celebration of Alban Arthon at Stonehenge. Every year, thousands of people gather to watch the sunrise, connecting with a tradition that's older than the stones themselves. Now let's geek out a bit and talk about the science. Our ancestors were pretty darn smart. They figured out the solstice just by carefully observing the sky. They created calendars, predicted seasons, and even built those amazing monuments we talked about earlier, all without computers or fancy equipment. So, what does all this mean for our health and well-being? Well, it turns out our ancestors might have been onto something with all those renewal rituals. The return of longer days after the solstice can have a real impact on our mood and energy levels. It's like our bodies are hardwired to respond to these light changes. Now, let's take a whirlwind tour of how people celebrate the winter solstice around the world today. In Japan, people still take yuzu baths on the solstice, believing it brings good health. In Ireland, thousands gather at Newgrange, hoping to catch that magical moment when sunlight illuminates the ancient chamber. So what have we learned on our journey? The winter solstice isn't just an astronomical event. It's a thread that runs through human history, connecting us with our ancestors and with each other. From ancient monuments to modern festivals, it's a time that encourages us to reflect, to hope, and to look forward to brighter days. As we wrap up our cosmic journey, I hope you're feeling as amazed as I am by the rich history and enduring significance of the winter solstice. Whether you decide to start a new solstice tradition or just take a moment to appreciate the changing seasons, remember, you're part of a human legacy that stretches back thousands of years. So, the next time you look up at the winter night sky, take a moment to connect with that ancient wonder. Who knows? You might just feel a little bit of that solstice magic yourself.